Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we had some class tuning come out on the War Within beta. So of course we're going to be talking about the Retribution Paladin aspect of the tuning. We had some hero talent tuning and we had some ret tuning. There's some good news, there's some bad news, and I'm going to try to tell you what it all means kind of, and where we are, and my thoughts on it as well, of course. So let's start with the hero talents because it's first up on their list here under Paladin. So Herald of the Sun, they made up until now, really, they've been changing Herald of the Sun overall without accounting for the Ret versus Holy. And they were basically specifically trying to nerf Holy, but they were also a little bit nerfing Ret as well. So we see a little bit of a change to this. We actually also see this in Templar too. But here we see Sun's avatar damage increased by 20%. This is a lot. Sun's avatar is already quite strong. This is a lot of damage on that. Sun's avatar is going to be the line. So you in Herald of the Sun hero talents, when you basically the way once you get all your talents and they all operate together, you put a dot on enemies with your finishers or whatever, and or on your allies, and it heals them, does damage to enemies, whatever. Well, when you have your wings on, a beam of light basically connects you to the dotted targets, either healing things that pass through them or dealing damage to them. So it's a really cool thing. I talked about it a lot when the beta first came out, and I'm sure I have videos of it. But Sun's avatar is really cool, and they just increase the damage by 20%, and it's already strong. The Eternal Flame now, so this is just replaces your Word of Glory, and basically it's just it's even more helpful when you heal yourself. So it's a super strong heal basically when you heal yourself. It's quite strong already, and so having this even more, I mean, that's just great, I guess. I don't normally heal myself too much in Mythic Plus, which is likely where we'll see more of the Herald of the Sun play. However, it's very, very strong. Templar changes as well for Retribution. We have Wrathful Descent now deals 100% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies when Empyrean Power critically strikes. So this is basically the only way that Templar can kind of cleave / AoE for the most part, and it now does more damage. So it was 100% of the damage dealt, and now it was 80, so it's a 20% increase as well. So this also increases the damage for this. I will say the Sun's avatar damage will do more damage because of the way it works, because as long as you're if you had a pull of 20, you can burn 20 enemies with that Sun's avatar in theory, right? And so, but it is it's a buff on both of them. And then Templar Synchronous Crusade healing is can no longer crit. That's fine. That's not a huge deal for us there. That's just when you use your Hammer of Light, I believe it heals you for a certain amount or a percentage of the damage you dealt or something like that. It can no longer crit. That's perfectly fine. We're not too worried about that. It's technically a nerf, but we're not too worried about it. So what we see here is basically buffs to hero talents that affect AoE in both cases. Herald of the Sun, this one is huge. I mean, Sun's avatar. I know there's a lot of Rets on the beta playing Templar in Mythic Plus, but Sun's avatar is a big chunk of your total damage. So 20% increase is a lot. So I hope we're doing some big pulls in the War Within. I know it's going to be hard a little bit with some way some of these dungeons are, but that's really cool. Just net positives up there. If you're a big Templar fan, you're like, ooh, even more cleave damage, even more AoE damage there on my Templar. So now we're gonna get to some stuff. So we had some good news. Now this is gonna be bad news to a lot of people. So we're gonna have some nerfs here. We're gonna have some buffs too, but we're gonna have some nerfs. So our 4-set bonus has been nerfed. So Wake of Ashes increases your damage done by 8% for 8 seconds. It was 10%, so it's a 2% damage nerf. I don't think this is gonna affect playing Radiant Glory. I think we'll still play Radiant Glory with this tier set. However, it is slightly nerfed, which it's not a huge nerf, but it is a nerf. Blessed Champion now deals 25% reduced damage to secondary targets, was 50% reduced damage. So Blessed Champion is the talent that makes your Judgment cleave. So this is actually a buff to Judgment. This is once again a buff to AoE, a buff to cleave. Final Verdict, Templar's Verdict, and Justicar's Vengeance all reduced by 10%. So this is basically any of our single target finishers are nerfed by 10%. I think this is mostly in response to seeing, if I had to guess, this is just a guess, okay? But if I had to guess, this is kind of seeing how the mastery works at high levels, because we're at a mastery level on the pre-patch right now that we can't have on the beta. Like there's no way for us to gain that stats really to have that much mastery on the beta. And they're like, okay, we're gonna have to nerf this a little bit. So I think they're kind of getting out in front of this. It might seem like it, like I think in the long run this is okay. Obviously, if they keep doing it, it's bad. But you know, I do think this is what it's a result of that, thinking, okay, this single target damage is going to be way too high, and we're going to lower it. Now, it's not super high on the beta right now, so I get it. If you're actively playing the beta, you might be like, what? We got nerfed on our single target damage? And I definitely feel that, because I feel the same way. But I do think it might be in a response. Maybe basically planning ahead to when we have our gear for Season 1, right? Because we're all at, like, whatever on the beta, like 603 or whatever item level. Once we have our gear for Season 1 and we can kind of funnel stats into mastery, maybe they're expecting us to be a little bit stronger than what we're showing right now in the beta, which wouldn't surprise me. And so that's the only thing I would say with this is, you know, it sucks. Any nerf sucks. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you nerfs are good, ever, right? Especially not for the spec that I play. But I don't know that it'll be that big of a deal as of right now. I kind of want to see. I want to wait and see, right? Well, I would say for these, I would wait and see. Hammer of Wrath damage reduced by 15%. I don't think this was super needed because of, you know, Hammer of Wrath is supposed to be like this really strong ability, kind of. It's also our execute. I'd be much more annoyed by this nerf than the 10% on the finisher nerf, because again, it's like, especially in the War Within, it's like really incentivizing us in Season 1 to use our Blade of Vengeance, and so to reduce Hammer of Wrath damage further down, it's a little bit weird to me, for sure. I think Hammer of Wrath is supposed to be something that's kind of strong, and so that big nerf there, that one I'm much more like perplexed by than the other one. Blade of Justice damage is reduced by 20%. Does not affect Blade of Vengeance. So again, so this is a single target nerf. You're going to see all these nerfs are going to basically be single target nerfs, and AoE's mostly buffed. So Blade of Justice damage reduced by 20%. Now again, this what this is going to do is going to make Blade of Justice and Hammer of Wrath very, very similar in power overall. Basically, Blade of Justice was, they almost had to nerf it in some way because it was like our top damage thing, and so it kind of makes sense too when they formulate it. Now you could be like, well, why are you doing this and nerfing our final verdict? And it's just like they're just recalibrating things. Again, it's never good to be nerfed, but I would rather everything play right. Do you really want your Blade of Justice to be like your #1 damage dealer? Probably not, right? In like a perfect world. But like, yeah, it's gonna be hard. Like anything I say here, you're gonna see that. You're gonna see 10% nerf on my finisher. You're going to see 20% nerf on my builder, 15% nerf on my execute. You're not going to be happy about it. I'm not telling you to be happy about it, okay, under any condition. I don't want people to like, get mad at me. A lot of times people get mad at me because I'm not like super angry about the nerfs. But this is just tuning. I would rather them get the formulation correct, where like final verdict is our top damage, then like maybe like something else I don't even know, and then execution sentence, and then like Hammer of Wrath, Blade of Justice, Judgment, you know, something like that. I'd rather get that in the correct order, and then tune from there. Like, so basically, let's say they do this and like, okay, that final verdict nerf wasn't needed, so let's give back that 10% on final verdict, right? And so that's kind of the way I look at it. I kind of look ahead a little bit, and I understand that makes it so I'm not as angry as some other people might be, but I do kind of see the vision, and I usually wait for it to go through, and then when they don't do what I want them to do, that's when I kind of get annoyed or mad, and you'll see one of those videos every now and then. Blade of Vengeance damage increased by 25%. So this is contrary to your Blade of Justice. Blade of Vengeance is when you talent into, and we could pop up some of these talents here if you're just not completely memorized by the name. But Blade of Vengeance is over here. It's on your talent tree, and this is just going to be the one that makes you AoE on your blade instead, right? So you use it Mythic Plus right now because it's with Empyrean power and stuff like that. And so, yeah, Blade of Vengeance. So this is getting buffed. So AoE is getting buffed. The other one you might not know just off the top of your head, it's a Blessed Champion one we talked about earlier. This one, again, that's the one that allows you to cleave on your judgments. And so this was buffed as well. So both of these like Mythic Plus type talents were buffed and by a decent amount. Let's go back to the list here. So we have Expurg next, right? Expurg damage reduced by 10%. So this is a nerf, again, mostly single target, right? And 10%. Just there's kind of nerf for this across the board. Again, I think they're just trying to recalibrate here. That's my sense on it. Now this one's hilarious. Divine Storm damage increased by 25%. I'm here to tell you, I'm like the Rets that are on the beta that are really wanting to play Templar for everything. I'm on retail right now, so I don't have the hero talents. They might be doing us a huge service, the Rets that are really wanting to play Templar in Mythic Plus, because I'm here to tell you I do Herald of the Sun in Mythic Plus because that's where I see the vision going, right? Kind of thinking ahead once again. And Herald of the Sun already pumps in Mythic Plus, and Herald of the Sun augments your Divine Storm a lot. Herald of the Sun was Sun's Avatar. We already saw that got buffed earlier. Divine Storm damage being increased by 25%. I don't think we're going to have to, with the 10% decrease to Final Verdict and this 25% increase to Divine Storm, I don't think we're going to have to worry about people playing single target in Mythic Plus anymore for the most part, because Divine Storm is extremely strong. Now that's not fair. Execution Sentence is still fine versus Final Reckoning because there's no changes to that in here, but just in general, like this is definitely going to lend itself towards playing that Herald of the Sun build in the War Within, that what I assumed what we would be playing in Mythic Plus. Templar Strike and Templar Slash reduced by 10%. We can check this one out as well. For people who don't know, that's just when you take Templar Strikes, you get the 2-button combo where the first one's Templar Strike and then the second one is Templar Slash. So this got buffed very heavily, and now it's getting nerfed a little bit. And then Crusading Strike damage was also reduced by 10%, which is just the Crusading Strike auto attack. And then also Crusader Strike was nerfed by 10%. So this is overall nerfed by 10%. As you can tell, most of our single target abilities are just getting nerfed by 10% all the way through, with some exceptions of being higher, like Blade of Vengeance and Hammer of Wrath. This is fine. Overall, again, it's just a recalibration. We'll see. Like if we're doing the least damage, then I just expect them to tune it up, slightly higher, right? We'll see where that goes. And I would like the tuning personally to be to Final Verdict, right? I don't want to belabor this point too much, but like with all these other nerfs going down to our single target stuff, I'd rather them, if let's say we are too weak, right? Let's assume that dooming is correct and everything, we're too weak. Then what I would like to see is I'd like to see this Final Verdict damage go up. It doesn't make sense the way Paladins work to not have the finisher be the strongest thing. So I'd like to see, let's say we're way too weak, I'd like to see this go up by like 20%, 25% or something like that. And then Final Verdict is really strong. And then over here, then Word of Glory healing increased once again. Our heals are very strong. An issue causing Radiant Glory to not function with fast back-to-back procs has been resolved. So Radiant Glory, this was an issue for sure, was not necessarily working every single time for some people, and pretty much everybody if you played long enough. But this is supposedly resolved. I think this is happening on the pre-patch too, so I don't know if this was hotfixed in the pre-patch as well, but this is the beta notes, so this is for the War with Them. So so overall, we got nerfed heavy in single target, buffed pretty significantly in AoE, and we'll just have to see where the cards fall on that. Again, after being able to see all the way, so let's end it with this. Why am I not like super mad or super worried right now? Because if I was going off only the beta, I would be pretty annoyed, because we're not like incredibly strong in the beta right now. However, like I said, the gear that's available to people to wear in the beta is not very good. And so basically the theory would be, well, once you have gear and then you're also itemizing it for like mastery, for example, the damage is going to be a lot better. That's true for everybody, right? But seeing exactly how the mastery worked in the pre-patch is like, okay, this is actually like really strong. And so it kind of makes sense, in my opinion, that they would try to do this and also try to recalibrate some things, like I said earlier, too. with some of the things not making sense, like your builders shouldn't do more damage than your spenders in theory. So I kind of understand that too. So that's why I'm not mad. That's when I take a step back and I'm like, okay, it's recalibration plus knowledge of how mastery is going to work at high levels. High levels of mastery are going to work. And so I would say just wait and see. You know, are they gonna mess with it? I'm guessing they're probably gonna wait and see on this. This was a lot of tuning changes. I'm guessing they'll probably wait and see how this works, like once the expansion launches, and then if we need to get buffed back up, we'll get buffed back up. And I hope that they do it in a way that makes sense to where it is like Final Verdict getting buffed, Hammer of Wrath getting buffed back up. I think would make sense too if we are too weak. So that's where I'll leave this one, guys. You can get angry in the comments below. Please don't get angry at me. I'm just the messenger, and I will, you know, instruct how to deal with this when the time comes, if we are too weak. But yeah, that'll be it for this one. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.